Shalom. This video is about the origins of the sacramental foods of wine and bread that are used on Jewish holidays, and also how they work as a metaphor for consciousness, for the practice of presence, and for spiritual awakening. Before we start, if you would take just a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel, that helps me out a lot. And if you want to go deeper, then you can head over to TorahofAwakening.com, where you can meditate with us almost every day on Zoom and also learn the basic practice we do, which is called Integral Jewish Meditation. You can get that at TorahofAwakening.com. Okay, on with the teaching.
So we're looking at the beginning of the Parsha, Vayedaber Adonai Moshe, Behar Sinai Lemor. Hashem spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai, saying, Daber b'nei Yisrael va'amata aleihem. Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, Kitavu el haaretz asher ani noten lachem. When you come into the land that I give to you, v'shavta haaretz Shabbat ladonai. The land itself should rest a Shabbat to the divine. Sheish shanim tizra sadeh. For 6 years you should seed your fields, v'sheish shanim tizmor karmecha, and for 6 years you shall prune your vineyard, v'asafta et tvuata, and gather in all of the produce. Uvashana hashvi'it, and on the 7th year it should be a Shabbat Shabbaton, a Sabbath of Sabbaths, yiyeh la'aretz Shabbat ladonai, that the land should rest a Shabbat to Hashem. Sadcha lo tizra, you shall not sow your field. V'charmcha lo tizmor, and your field you shall, and you shall not prune your vineyard. Okay, a little story, a little anecdotal teaching from the Hasidic world. A disciple asked Rabbi Simcha Bunam, it is written, Ele hadavarim asher tidaber el bnei Yisrael. These are the words which you shall speak to the children of Israel. This is from a different part of the Torah in the book of Exodus. And then Rashi, the medieval commentary Rashi, comments on this. Ele hadavarim, these are the words. Lo pachot velo yoter, no more and no less. What does he mean by that? Why does he add this phrase, no more and no less? Rabbi Bunam explained, Moses was overflowing with the teaching and wanted to reveal everything, but the people wouldn't have been able to receive it. For a person needs to seek and strive for wisdom. Being spoon-fed doesn't work. Moses has to say just these words to them, no more and no less, so that they might feel, something is hidden here, and we must strive to discover it for ourselves. That is why further on we read, V'yasem lifnehem et hadavarim ha'ele, and he set before him all of these words, meaning the words that were spoken, no more and no less, as well as the words that were not yet discovered. So he was speaking whatever he was speaking, but pregnant within them were insights and understandings that would come later, that would only come from one seeking out the meaning for themselves. Anyone who teaches knows that it is a relational process. The student must want to learn and to some degree discover for themselves. Attempting to teach when there's no desire to learn can be a frustratingly futile activity. But when the student seeks to learn that which they do not yet know, then the learning becomes alive and new. Old information is received with fresh insight, as if for the first time. And for that person, for the student, it is for the first time. Sadcha lo tizra v'charmcha lo tizmor. You shall not sow your field or prune your vineyard. Okay. So planting fields or sowing fields refers to grain, and from the grain is made that ancient staple, bread. Pruning vineyards is a reference to grapes that are made into wine. This is a passage from Bereshit, when King Melchizedek comes to Avraham. It says that he brought out bread and wine, and he was a priest of God the Most High, Kohen El Elyon. Wine and bread are not only basic foods, they're also sacramental foods in our tradition, forming the ritual part of sacred meals on Shabbat and festivals. The earliest reference to this practice is this passage in which Melchizedek, the priest king of Shalem, or Yerushalayim, Jerusalem, blesses Avraham and brings him bread and wine. There is a teaching attributed to Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach, which points out that wine gets better and better with age. You pay more for wine depending on how old it is. Bread, on the other hand, has to be fresh. No one wants a 50-year-old loaf of bread. Similarly, there's an aspect of the spiritual path that is ancient and an aspect that is fresh and new. For example, Torah, including the whole Jewish tradition, is ancient. There's a special richness in being connected to this ancient lineage, so much so that many are able to tolerate the many passages of Torah that feel disturbing, unethical, and sometimes completely wrong. And yet, that richness doesn't really come to life unless it is combined with fresh, new insights and interpretations. That's what I'm trying to do for you here, of course. For the tradition to really live, it also has to be like bread. We need chidushim, new insights, new ways of reading the texts and practicing the tradition. On a deeper level, the very practice of presence itself also contains these two aspects. On one hand, there's nothing more ancient than the present moment. There is nothing that has ever existed outside the space of this one eternal moment. There has never been and can never be an instance of the present moment being absent. That is why one of the names of God is Atik Yomin, the Ancient of Days. And when we become fully present to the eternal space of the present, there is a feeling of transcendence that arises, a knowing of oneself as that space, an intoxication in drinking from the wine of being. Hopefully we get a taste of that whenever we come together to meditate. At the same time, in becoming present to that which is most ancient, there is also a spontaneous letting go of the past, a dropping away of mental and emotional baggage, so that the fullness of this moment appears not as ancient, but as radiant, alive, and new, like a freshly baked challah. In this way, that which is most ancient gives rise to that which is most new. In meeting this moment, free from the conditioning of the past, we are greeted by a new potential never before seen. But if the field and vineyard are the eternal and ever-renewing fruits of our practice, what does it mean that we may not harvest them? What is this thing about the sabbatical year where you can't harvest them anymore? Is there a time when we should not reap the benefits of the path? V'shavta haaretz Shabbat. The land shall rest a Sabbath. Actually, the Shabbat for the land is the very essence of the path. There are many factors that must support our practice. We have to plan and organize our lives to allow for the daily tending of the land. But when we engage in the practice itself, we must let go of all of that and come fully into the moment. Ki tavu el haaretz asher ani noten lachem. When you come into the land that I give you, this is the true Shabbat Shabbaton. To come into the land means to recognize that the appearance of reality now is the gift of being. It is given to us from the mystery. It is not the result of our intentions or our efforts. And while it's true that from the point of view of ordinary life, we must attend to the blossoming of this realization with our efforts, to truly live this realization, we must fully come into the land. We must rest in the field of being that is not separate from the consciousness we are. This is meditation. And to truly rest in the Shabbat of meditation, we must become fully receptive to all that is now arising. This is the path of Dalit, the midah of receptivity, of resting in the recognizing that everything emerges from the mystery and returns there, a gift both new and ancient, this holy moment.